What's up, YouTube? It's your boy DC in the very first DisCussions video, and what might be the very last video in this room because I am moving in about a month. But yeah, like I said, I was inspired by Bowtied and TVR to make a video like this discussing stuff. And yeah, I called it DisCussions, you know, the little wordplay. So let me know what you think of that, see if it'll stick or not. But yeah, this very first question is I asked you guys what your favorite electronic album of all time is, because I've been buying a bunch of EDM vinyls lately. So I'm just curious to see what your guys' favorite are, because I have my own personal favorites. We'll see if we align in that way. But yeah, I got about 45 unique different comments, so thank you guys for participating. And I think I'm just going to go over the ones I've actually heard or are at least familiar with, because I don't think it's right to talk about some albums that I've never listened to personally. But yeah, I might like show them at the end as honorable mentions in case you want to check those albums out, because I'm sure myself I am going to check out some of these albums I've never listened to at some point, just a matter of time. So yeah, it's in pretty much no particular order, maybe just like alphabetical order. Alright, Aerosurge says, I don't have a favorite album of all time, but I think Nigel Good's A Little Something is an exceptional one. Obviously, this is a very popular take for many reasons, but the project as a whole is a beautiful compilation of house, D&B, and even melodic dubstep tracks that transition seamlessly. You know, I would agree with you for the most part. It is a fantastic album. Obviously, it's brand new. It just came out a few months ago. There's going to be more time. We're going to need to reflect on it and eventually gain nostalgia for it, like Space Cadet. And of course, since it's by the same artist and has a similar vibe to Space Cadet, people are always going to be comparing the two. It's going to be very hard to replicate the feeling you get when you listen to Space Cadet, just like the whole atmospheric, progressive house, existential space journey, you know what I mean? But he did a really good job with this album, and I think there's a lot of bangers on here. You know, you've got Jay and Ren with Richard Caddick. You've got The Magic, which is a fantastic D&B track, like you were saying. I also really enjoy Cloud Runner, another great D&B. There's a lot of good stuff on here. You know, if you're into progressive house, if you're into some atmospheric, like spacey vibes, you will definitely enjoy this album. Okay, next up, Ursa says, A Moment Apart by ODESZA. It's one of those albums where I have a really hard time picking a favorite song because almost all of them are just so good. It's the album where they're most on point, everything's fine-tuned, the sound is perfectly crafted, it's truly incredible. The whole thing just feels so uplifting, and getting to hear some of the songs live on the TLG tour was a magical experience. Okay, I'm a little bit jealous there, man. It would be really cool to see ODESZA live. And you know what? I'm going to agree with you. This is also my favorite ODESZA album. It's got my favorite song by them, Late Night. It also has Falls, which I've been playing a lot lately. Even though you said uplifting, that one kind of has some like sad lyrics, but also surprisingly uplifting, so I agree. But yeah, the production quality of all the songs here are top notch. I'm just looking at the track list right here. You know, you got Higher Ground, you got, of course, A Moment Apart, which is in Forza Horizon 4, I believe. Across the Room is great. There's really no bad songs on this. I just, my favorites, I would say, is Late Night, Falls, A Moment Apart, and Higher Ground probably. But yeah, I agree with you. This is fantastic. Pendulum Immersion or Knife Party Abandoned Ship, two of the greatest EDM albums of all time. So I can't speak on Pendulum because I haven't heard that album. I've been meaning to explore their discography more. I'll get to it eventually, so that's an honorable mention. But Knife Party Abandoned Ship I can definitely speak on. I listened to the full album for the first time just last year. I had known about 404 for a while, because like back when I had Apple Music, I kind of just randomly searched up some popular songs, and I would just buy like one or two from, you know, popular albums. So 404 has been a favorite of mine for a while, but I finally listened to the whole thing, and you know what, I agree. This is definitely one of those iconic EDM albums. Can't believe it's already 10 years old at this point. Yeah, this is Knife Party's best body of work. You got EDM Trend Machine, which is like a great meta song that actually just bangs. And then 404 is great, like I said. Begin Again with Rob Swire's vocals are just iconic. And Red Dawn, honestly, the whole thing is just fantastic. And I would agree with you. This is probably a 9 out of 10 album for me. Next up, Coloring Snake says, CHOMPO number 1. For some reason, it's just the perfect study music for me. I like every song on the album and don't skip any of them. You know, this is an interesting one because it's not like your average album. It's more of like a compilation album. It doesn't really have like a set theme or story. But actually, looking back at the track list, I kind of forgot that a lot of these are just like Tokyo Machine CHOMPO songs to kind of fill the gap. So some of those can be fillers. So actually, I probably would skip some of these. But this album or compilation does have some bangers. Like, I really enjoy Fire. I really enjoy Hey There. And Someone, the finale, that's one of my favorite collabs of the past couple years. You know, Tokyo Machine and Nitro Fun, that's fantastic. So it's a very solid album, but not my favorite. I will say that I like it a lot more than CHOMPO number 2, though. Okay, next up, Cursed Pikachu says, Disciple Alliance Volume 7. Moving on. Probably not going to read all of it, but DJ Aiden says, yes, in terms of enjoyment and replayability, it may seem like a very NPC option, but I have to go with the Daft Punk Discovery album. I don't think that's too NPC. It's definitely well-deserved. I mean, I'll just show you something real quick. Got this vinyl, just came in probably last week by the time this video comes out. I've already listened to it a couple times, and unfortunately, my parents and aunt who were over did not really like it. Surprise, surprise. But yeah, this is absolutely iconic. This is kind of revolutionary, especially for house music. Back in 2001, I can't believe this is already like 23 years old, just about as old as me at this point. But yeah, I mean, just looking at the track list on this, One More Time, iconic. Aerodynamic, banger. Digital Love might be my favorite Daft Punk song of all time. Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger. There are some people I know that think Kanye's song that sampled this is the original and don't realize that this is the original, which just kind of makes me sad. Crescendos, that's a pretty jumpy house too. Night Vision, nice and chill. So yeah, I mean, I could go on and on. This album's perfect. Definitely up there among the best albums of all time. I honestly have a tough time choosing between this and Ram, which of course I did order a vinyl for Ram. Hopefully it gets here soon. But yeah, this I agree with you. This is fantastic. Holds up well, stood the test of time, absolute classic. Okay, next comment by Sprinkled Knights. He's got some honorable mentions here, so feel free to pause the video. But he says that his favorite as of recent is Disruptor by Reaper. Drum and bass is my favorite EDM genre, and Neurofunk is my favorite drum and bass subgenre. 4 songs are 10 out of 10 in my book. Yeah, so this album's what, like 2 years old? Maybe 3 at this point, which is crazy. I remember I listened to it once, made a video on it. I'm going to be honest though, I haven't really returned to it. I do enjoy drum and bass quite a bit. Reaper's style of drum and bass has kind of gotten a little stale to me. You know, it's pretty abrasive. I do like some heavier drum and bass here and there, like Neurofunk, like you said, but this one, I feel like it doesn't have that many standouts to me personally. Runaway with Josh Rubin's great, of course. Yeah, you've got Move Together, which is pretty fun. You've got I Miss You and Coach. I really like Coach. So yeah, I would say it's a pretty fun album, especially if you like drum and bass. I remember having a great time listening to it, but it just hasn't really stuck with me, you know? Like, I don't really feel the need to return to it. I might return to a couple songs here and there, but yeah, if you like drum and bass, this is definitely great. Next up, Raincast Music says, Riot, Dogma, Resistance. This is top tier dubstep in my opinion. The theme is so well established and the grandness of the album really shines through. It truly feels like the most well-written and well-executed album. The mixing and mastering is just perfect, and every track has such a unique story to them. The interludes feel actually worthwhile, and the main events are just dubstep at its best. I can't really think of anything bad about this LP. It's the best album of all time for those reasons. Yeah, I wouldn't say best album of all time. It's definitely up there in terms of dubstep, though, for sure. And I definitely agree with you about the interludes actually being worthwhile. Because, I mean, look, the track list, the album is only 10 songs, and 3 of those are interludes, but they develop the story, they add to it. Really nice transitions between the hard-hitting dubstep here. I mean, why do you think every new Riot song that comes out, people just wish it was as high quality as this album? Because there's really no bad songs here. I love Jungle Fury, Disorder, Rebirth, love the drum and bass switch up in that. Blackwater was the first Riot song I heard, and honestly my favorite Monster Cat song for a little bit at the beginning. Awa, probably my least favorite here, but the, you know, Arabian desert themes is pretty cool. The mob's pretty cool. And Overkill, I'm going to be honest, I kind of overplayed this song, which kind of killed my enjoyment of it for now. I'm sure I'll come back to it and love it because I had that on repeat for a while. I finally mastered in Beat Saber, which took a long time. And then Take That bonus track, just a funky jam at the end. Yeah, this is a stellar track list right here. Great album. I'm going to have to agree, one of the best dubstep albums, maybe the best I've ever heard personally. We'll see. Okay, we got a short and simple comment right here by Sean. Good Faith Forever by Madeon. So technically it's called Good Faith. The tour was called Good Faith Forever, but I forgive you for that mistake. I mean, check this out. Ooh, it's reflective. And yeah, I played this for my parents and aunt as well last night, along with Discovery, and surprise, surprise, they didn't really like Good Faith that much. But everybody's different. So yeah, this is one of my personal favorite albums of all time. Madeon's one of my favorite artists of all time, so I highly agree with this take. There's really not a skip. The only song I would skip on this album is probably the very last one, Borealis. It's just not really my speed. But everything else, I mean, you got Dream, 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 All My Friends, Be Fine, Nirvana, and Mania is my favorite back-to-back combo in any album ever. Just the way Nirvana transitions into Mania, it's fantastic. And I highly recommend watching his live show at Red Rocks because then it turns into Hypermania, which is insane. Then you got Miracle, No Fear No More, Hold Me Just Because, and Heavy With Hoping. Heavy With Hoping especially has grown on me a ton this past year. So yeah, this is a 10 out of 10 album in my opinion. It's super close to his original Adventure. Actually, you know what? It might be on par with his original album Adventure, and I really hope he makes another album soon because it's been 5 years since this came out, which is crazy. Yeah, I love Madeon. Definitely check him out if somehow you haven't already. Next up, by Benny. No Manas, I Contain Flashing Images. I haven't been listening to electronic for too long, and I haven't really explored outside of Monster Cat and their artist music, but to me that album has zero bad songs. Lost Call, Ecstatic and Irresponsible, Road Burn, and Falling in Love may all be in my top 10 songs of the year. Yeah, I can relate to that first statement because back in 2019, when I was just now getting back into electronic music, I didn't really explore outside of Monster Cat. But the second statement, that this album has zero bad songs, I would disagree just because I really don't like Garage 17. I just think that one's way too repetitive. And then Road Burn, honestly, one of my other least favorite songs from this album. And plus, I don't really like the finale, Underwater. It's kind of underwhelming. But other than that, I will totally agree. I think this is the best Monster Cat album this year. It's honestly one of the best EDM albums in general this year. I've played it a ton of times. I keep coming back to it. I just love the intro. Solar Punk just hits super hard. Falling in Love is great. Digital Friends is a banger. City to City is underrated. Hopeless, one of the best collabs of this year. Luxor Eterna, I know I was really high on that one at first. It's kind of grown off me a little bit, but it is definitely unique. Everlasting's a bop. Justifies still holds up. Ecstatic and Irresponsible, probably my favorite. I would say this is the best Monster Cat album of this year so far. One of the best EDM albums of this year. I wouldn't put it all-time status just because it came out this year. You know, we need more time to listen and see if it stands the test of time. Okay, Astral Infinity says Pendulum Immersion. That's a second mention of that album, which just means I'm going to have to check it out sooner rather than later. But your second half of this comment says Porter Robinson Nurture. For the atmosphere and emotion that went into this album, it was life-changing for me and honestly really helped me to change who I was. Around the time it released, I had become an adult, and mentally I had lost my footing. After listening to Look at the Sky, Something Comforting and Unfold, it helped me to ease my mind and to not be harsh on myself and to have more self-positivity. Man, that is so facts, dude. Nurture is one of the best albums of the past decade. It's only 3 years old, but it's already got some nostalgia feel to it. It's already become a classic. I totally agree with you, you know. It's just such an uplifting album, such a feel-good album, especially if you're not in a great mental state. It's just super comforting, especially the song Something Comforting, you know. But yeah, I just re-ranked this album a couple weeks ago because I've been listening to a lot of Porter this year leading up to his new album and the concert later this year I'm going to. And yeah, Nurture is definitely one of my favorite albums of all time. I mean, Look at the Sky, Get Your Wish, Musician, Mother, Don't Sleep on Mother. That's my favorite song from the album. So check it out. Mirror's great, Something Comforting is amazing. Unfold's also fantastic. Everything here is just fantastic. The only things I don't like is the slow ballads because that's just not really my vibe. But yeah, this has stood the test of just 3 years. I'm sure it'll stand the test of another 3 years and more. I'm just going to spoil it right now. Nobody in these comments mentioned Worlds, which I'm kind of sad about because I prefer Worlds slightly over Nurture, but they're both 10 out of 10 albums to me. Next up, by Ghostless Music, Machine by F.O.O.L. I love him, and this album is peak. Short and simple, I like that. Yeah, so when this came out, I would totally agree. This was pretty peak when it came out. I will say for me personally, I kind of go through phases with F.O.O.L. I'll go long stretches without hearing any of his music. And then I'll go through these short stretches where I want to keep listening to F.O.O.L over and over because his synthwave and mid-tempo definitely hits really hard. This album is pretty dynamic, I would say. He's even got some dubstep in here. I would say the best songs for me, surprisingly, Motor, which is a funk mid-tempo kind of combination, which is really sick. What's the one? Vibrance is a nice, easy vibe. Mothership's great, electro house. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here. I haven't really listened to this since it came out, but I'm sure if I get in one of those F.O.O.L phases, I'll be wanting to re-listen to this quite a bit. True Young says, not sure if remix comps count, but if they do, it's 100% Rocket League times Monster Cat Legacy. Right after this comp came out, free to play for Rocket League came out, and I was also traveling in Europe. It was really fun playing the new tournaments and getting the new tourney items. Rocket League is really what got me into Monster Cat in the first place. Same. And a lot of my 10 out of 10 songs are on that comp. Just an amazing remix comp with no bad songs. The comp also introduced me to the original From Here and the original Silhouette, which I never listened to before. Anyways, yeah, that's 100% that if remix comps count. Yeah, sure, I'll let it count, especially since I'm familiar with this one. I'm surprised that you've never heard From Here or Silhouette until this came out, because the originals are definitely better than the remixes in my opinion. I don't really agree that you say there's no bad songs here. I mean, okay, it's only an 8-track remix comp, right? Rocket VIP, I actually think that's great. I think it's on par with the original. The Silhouette Feed Me remix, not even close, because, you know, I'm a Bad Computer fanboy. I love the original, just the dark atmosphere of that one, and this remix kind of takes that away. The From Here Atlas remix, that's a little too chill and progressive house for me, kind of like Silk vibes. The original From Here is amazing down-tempo, and you can't really beat it. Unfortunately, the Shy Aways VIP is a big disappointment for me. I love the original, and this one just kind of threw it off, and I don't really like it. Once again, another Fox Stevenson remix on the label, just not on par with his original songs outside the label. The Horsepower remix, definitely very heavy banger that hits really hard, and I think I like it better than the original, so that's a plus. The What Are You Waiting For VIP turns nice electro house into a trance song. And I do enjoy Stone Baked Trance quite a bit, so that's up there. And then the Walking on the Moon, it's a Bad Computer remix, makes it a bit more funky, a bit more straightforward. So I like the difference between the original and that. So that was a long-winded answer, but I will say this is definitely not my favorite album or comp out there. There's definitely better Rocket League comps specifically, but there are a few really good remixes here. Next by Space Canary, Virtual Riot Simulation. I'm kind of just a giant fan of his sound design. Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. This album never gets old to me, which is kind of surprising because, you know, inherently I love melodic EDM a lot of the time. I'm not really the biggest dubstep or hardcore EDM fan like that, but this one just hits different for some reason. I don't know if you're talking about the original Simulation, but if you're talking about the deluxe version, I prefer the deluxe version a bit just because there's a few extra songs at the end that I have on repeat all the time. I'm talking about Boss Fight After Party, the old chiptune banger, and then How Do I Know, which is one of Virtual Riot's best melodic songs he's ever made. But yeah, just if you look at the original 16 songs, Simulation, Redline, Rewrite, Exile, Fork Funeral, Back in Time, Neon Angel, Dreaming, This Could Be Us, they're all heavy hitters. They all slap every time, especially Back in Time. That's probably my favorite here, other than the other two I mentioned in the deluxe version. But yeah, these just never get old, man. I totally agree. I love his sound design too. This is easily my favorite thing Disciple has ever put out. A 3-for-1 here by the original Spike Cat. It's either Xilent's We Are Dust, Thirst After Hours mixtape, or Haywyre's Twofold Part 2. I'll agree with you on 2 out of 3. I mean, you must just be a big fan of funk, because Thirst After Hours mixtape wasn't anything that notable. I mean, it wasn't bad, but definitely not like top album of all time in my opinion. But the other two here, definitely 2 of the best albums Monster Cat's ever gotten. The We Are Dust album, I've heard so many times. I honestly haven't listened to it in a while just because I used to listen to it way too much. But every single song is great here. This is one of those 10 out of 10 albums where there's really no skips for me personally. And then Haywyre's Twofold Part 2, I mean, it's no secret Haywyre is one of my favorite artists ever. His Twofold Part 2 album is iconic and basically helped to get me back into EDM, especially the IMU song, which amazing future bass that still sounds futuristic to this day. Then you got the iconic Do You, Don't You. You've got Endlessly, it was a great album wrap-up. Memory, which is a great French house banger. So yeah, both albums are among my favorites. I totally agree. Last but not least, and Tony Carnaline says, if it's my favorite album, it's got to be Vindata's With Opened Eyes album. I really like this African indie dance style from these two, and the vocalist in this album makes the album more upbeat. This is the type of indie dance I personally crave for, and Vindata really popped off in that album. With almost all of the songs being my personal favorites from them, hopefully you understand what I'm saying here. Oh yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. And it's kind of sad that I think this was the last project the Vindata duo made together before one of them split up. Sorry, I don't really know their names, but I think one of them's still carrying the name on, which is good. But yeah, this is definitely a very unique album, especially on Instinct. It's pretty great. My favorite song would have to be One Time. I just love the vocals and the vocal chops in that one. It's a great funky vibe. Skin has grown on me quite a bit. Before Noon's a fun like guilty pleasure. Knock On hits pretty hard. And yeah, just like you said, the African indie dance style, like the world music influence here is really strong. And yeah, I love indie dance personally too, so this is up there. I wouldn't say it's like my favorite album of all time, but every once in a while, if you throw it on, it's just a relaxing, catchy vibe, and I don't mind it at all. Alright, so those are all of the albums I wanted to talk about that I'm actually familiar with, that I've actually listened to. There's quite a few more comments of albums that I haven't listened to, so I'll probably show those on the screen and play a random song in case you want to get some new album recommendations. I know I will be writing some of these down and probably listen to them at some point. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of this new video type. Might make a series on it. Let me know what you think about the title, like Let's Discuss with the wordplay. Yeah, thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.